There we go. So this is part 2 of building yourself a business plan. And I promised a lot of people I'd record. So we just started recording. We are recording. And I'm going to share my screen in just a second. But to recap, for those of you who were at class, you already knew what numbers you were supposed to be getting. For those who didn't make it to class, I sent a list to you and said, these are the numbers that you're supposed to start gathering. So we are going to try to figure now where to plug in those numbers that we have. I sent a email that had a spreadsheet attached to it that we're going to be using. And if you'll notice in the chat box right now, I put that same spreadsheet in the chat box. If you want to try to use your spreadsheet at the same time, please do. It's easier with 2 screens. If you shrink it to a half screen on each side, you might be all right, but you may just want to watch and do it later too. So, and refer to this recording. So let me start sharing my screen. And I want you to see that spreadsheet. Now, can everybody see the spreadsheet? Yes. Okay. And I need to open the chat, because if I don't, I won't know when somebody else new wants in. Chat. April gave me a thumbs up too. Good. Okay. So this is an extremely complex spreadsheet. And I'm not picking on Lance here, but more than anything, he's probably one of our more advanced spreadsheet users in the company. And this one would be enough to make anybody blush to try to set it up. It's easier for me to understand once it's set up than it is to go back and try to plug things in. But the first thing you'll notice is at the bottom, there's several tabs. Budget, goals. Can you guys see this okay, or you want me to try to blow it up more? Okay, I'll leave it there. They have goals for single agents and goals for teams. Today, we're only going to be single agents. It's got your year 3 and 5 plan if you want to get into that, your monthly breakdown, and 168 hours. We may not get over all the way over there today. We will have to see how well that works. And so we start first on the budget. Now, let me tell you, you can make the budget as complex as you want it or as easy as you want it. What I've done is I've gone through and said, you know, we have an annual of 560. That really is in December. You can move these things how you want to. And then every quarter, we pay 166 for MLS dues. And Lance is looking at it over my shoulder now. He's going to smack me in the head probably. This is a really good spreadsheet. It's multi-page, it's a good one. And so it takes those and it totals them and it brings them down to here. Well, we could add other things on your business side. Let's say that you're going to spend $100 mailing out magnets the first part of the year. And so I'm going to put in here $100. Well, if I'm going to do a second mailing, I could put it in, and so on. Does everybody kind of understand that? I would put things in here like, go back and see how much you spent for your phone last year. Do you spend extra for internet at home? Do you do photography? You know, you buy our pictures from us. How much do you do on photography? Or you can leave it just this simple and be done with it. But I think the more you put in, the better off you will be. The same with the bottom part. Now, the reason you put your personal expenses in here is you're trying to decide how much you want to make from real estate next year, pay your bills. That's where we're going with this. Well, that's nice and okay and everything's fine, but if you don't want to put all that in, you could just put one line in. I want $10,000. I want $15,000, whatever you want to do. Maybe your spouse takes care of all those bills and all you need is another amount that you want for a vacation or whatever you want to do. So you can make it as complex by going line by line, month by month, or you can just put one amount in. Let's say I want to I want to buy a new car and I want to pay cash for it. Well, I could put that number in here. Or I could put in here that I like to go out to eat every night. It takes these numbers now and puts them together. And when you go to the next page, which is Goals Solo Agent, it starts bringing the numbers over. So you'll see that it's got my personal expenses, my business expenses, and what I need for this year is $4,400 and some odd dollars is all I need to make from real estate. Well, that sounds pretty crummy to me. So up here, you have personal goals that you can add in. Now, the way this thing is designed, when something is gray, that's a number they're looking for you to put in. So let's say I want to buy my new car for $25,000 this year. See how all my numbers change down to the screen? Let's say I want a vacation to Hawaii, and I know that's going to be $12,000. So you can go back to the front screen and fill everything out if you want to, or you can put a few minor things in here and still come up with the same numbers. Everybody got that?
Yep.
Okay. So now then, we go down to this page. My personal goal, as calculated from above, is $37,000. Puts my expenses in, puts my business expenses in from the front page. And obviously we didn't cover things like gas or, what I pay for my lockbox keys or any of those other things. But we're going to go with this example for right now. To buy my car and go to Hawaii and pay my business, it says my total financial goal is $41,444. Now then, I asked you guys to calculate your average sales price. Did most of you do that?
Yes.
Okay. If you did not, the company average sell price is $178. But I'm going to give you a couple of keys to that. Your average sales price might be different than the company's because let's take Judy, for example. She sells a lot of homes and most of them are new homes. New homes, as a rule, cost more than the others. So she could skew our average. You may be in a very luxury place where all you do is luxury and you're up there beyond her. Use your average because that makes more sense for you. If you do a whole lot of investors, you may be selling investor homes that are typically lower priced, but you do a lot more of them. So it's a good, and you'll do them as buyers rather than sellers. So that's why we asked you to look at your own numbers. Now the average sales commission price, if you computed yours, God bless you. If you did not, the company average sales price is 2.72%. And what that means is we go across the board and see what everybody charges for their commission. And some people discount and so on, and it figures that for us. If you never ever discount your commission, you can plug 3% in there. Unless, of course, as a buyer agent, you're offered 2.5%. If you did not figure yours up, you can use our percentage of 2.7% commission. Everybody got that so far? Okay. The next number is a calculated number. Anywhere there's a white space, that's calculated. And it says that the average sales price at the average commission rate, a check is cut at the closing table for $4,842. Below that is your commission split. Now, you guys all have your own commission splits, and it varies with caps and stuff like that, but I'm going to use 70% as pretty much our average. And that means from everything we close, rough numbers, you get about $3,389 on your side of the transaction. And that means you need 13 transactions this year to make those numbers that we had up at the top, the 44,000.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If a lot of the businesses from like Op City or someplace like that were our actual income is less, how do we calculate that as a percentage so that we have a more accurate number?
Instead of using a split here, you would calculate all of your commissions by all the sales prices, and that will give you your actual commission split based on dollars and cents. It's also somewhere in here because, as you know, we take our on an individual basis, the company as a whole takes all of the referrals off the top. So that's part of why that number is there. But if you do a lot more of those, then you're probably going to want to calculate your particular average commission split. Okay? But you take all of the sales prices and you take all of your commissions that were earned, put those numbers together, and you'll come up with your actual split after you do all that other business. Okay? Then I asked you guys to calculate the percentage of closings that you had on the buyer side and on the seller side. Just so you'll understand how these numbers work, as a company, we have 43% listings and 57% buyers. Actuality, I'd love to see that 50-50. And in this market, I'd like to have more listings because they sell so fast, we'd be incredibly, On the other hand, when it's a buyer's market, we need more buyers because we make more off of them than listings sitting there. But 50-50 is good, and 43-57 is a good number too. So we put this number in, and it calculates the rest. And then it says, well, if you need 13 deals and 43% of your deals are listings, you need 6 listings and 8 buyers. You see how we got there? Okay. Now then, these numbers are put in from a Realogy study from 2018. And they're actually pretty close to what our company numbers are, which is 88%. And if you want to calculate your own, that's fine, but let me tell you what that means. I had 10 contracts last year and I closed 8. So we lost 2. 88% seems to be about what we did as a company. So if you want to use that number, I think you're good. So what this sheet then does is says, well, if I need 6 to actually close, and this is my closing depending rate, I need to actually get 7 contracts depending because I know I'm going to lose one. And I need to get 9 depending because I know I'm going to lose one. Now, when I talk about pending, I'm not talking about you wrote an offer and it wasn't accepted. I'm talking about one that's accepted, one that should close, and for whatever reason it didn't. You'll have your own number, but I doubt if it's far off of there. If half of your contracts are not closing, I imagine you're pretty frustrated. Maybe we ought to visit for a while and unfrustrate. Okay? Active clients to pending rate. Now, this number I'm not as much of a fan of, the one that they did with their study. While it's very, very difficult for me to come up with that number as a company, I can tell you I checked with a couple of agents, and that number is actually about 87% in our company. Now, let me tell you what that means. I have clients that are looking for a house, and within a certain amount of time, they actually bought one. I have clients I've talked to about listings. I'm still working with them, but we haven't listed yet. How many people do you go talk to that actually don't list with or don't list their house but are still active? So I would use 87% because that's very, very difficult to calculate. But then you'll notice it comes down, well, if that's true, and I need to get 7 pendings so that I can have 6 closings, then I've got to be working with 9 people over the next year to get a listing done. And I have to work with 11 buyers to get 8 closings. Do you see how this works? Okay. Appointments to listing taken. Now, I'm guessing, and you can pretty much get this, Your numbers won't be far off of this either. You can change them if you want. You know how many times, or you have a fair feeling. I went and did a listing presentation, but I didn't get the listing. They did it with somebody else. That's what we're talking about here. And the same with buyer. I sat down with the buyer. I did a buyer agency with them. They didn't buy a house. So overall, for me to make $41,444, I need to get to 11 appointments for listing side and 14 appointments on the buyer side in the next year. Okay? Everyone understand that? Now I'm going to finish some of the rest of this, but we're going to go out and collect more numbers. So don't get too excited yet. The average number of appointments needed to close one transaction. If I have a buyer agency appointment, do I actually get to close it? Well, these numbers are calculated. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I need, based on all this, 1.9 appointments to get one closed transaction. Now, why is that number important? If I don't know how many people I need to meet with in order to get these closings up here that I'm trying to get to, I have no idea how to predict how many people I need to talk to in a year, and a month, and a week. Okay? So I need nearly 2 appointments to close a transaction. That means to get my 13 transactions this year, I need to have 25 appointments. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
40 weeks in a year. Are you going to take vacation or not?
2 weeks.
There's 52 weeks in a year, but let's put 50 in there just as a good number. I have number of appointments that I'll need each week. I need 1 appointment a week. Why are we boiling it down this little? Not so, you may be the kind of person that says, I haven't had my appointment this week. I better go out and get one. Or you may be the kind of people like me that says, I'm going to get a whole bunch of appointments. You can track them or not, but I know in the back of my head that if I'm not making at least 1 appointment a week, I ain't going to make enough money. And for me, that's more important than I know exactly how many I've had for the year. Other people are more goal-oriented. I didn't have an appointment this week. I need 2 next week. You have to decide how your brain works. Average number of prospecting contacts needed to make an appointment. You guys are going to know that more than I will. If I talk to 5 people, do I get an appointment? If I talk to 10 people, do I get an appointment? What is that number for you? And what's a contact? Is that I drop something off at their house, or I call them on the phone and say, hey, how you doing? You have to decide what a contact is. But I'm going to leave 30 there. Number of days worked per week. Well, in case you guys haven't figured it out, I work 7 days a week. Lynn didn't laugh. I figured Lynn would laugh at that. But I really do. I work 7 days a week. But thanks, Lynn. But my work may be, a 5-minute phone call on Sunday, and I'm off the rest of the day. You have to decide what you're going to put in there. But at least when we start breaking it down, we can say, I need to make 6 contacts this week. Or if I'm really good, maybe I convert after only talking to 10 people. Well, now I only need 2 contacts. You have to figure out what that number is and how it works. So we have 5 minutes left. I'm going to encourage you guys to do this now. If you haven't already done it, fill it in, and we'll talk about this Tuesday. What are your top sources of business? You can go through all the closings that you had last year and say, closings from my sphere of influence last year, and if you only got 5 from your sphere, I'll be surprised on most of them. It's going to be higher, percentage-wise anyway. FSBOs, I doubt if anybody is doing 60% of their business from FSBOs. Not in this market. And that's why we look at these every year, because they change every year. Do you understand? What we're doing with this then is, if we know where our most successful source of business is, we know where to spend our time marketing, or deciding what we did wrong with these other sources so that we can improve them. I used to be the king of an open house. I never walked away from an open house without at least one solid lane. Of course, that was 20 years ago. Things change. I get that. But if I knew that open houses was my best source of business, I didn't need to spend a lot of time or money in for sell by owners or sending out cards every month, because I would do more open houses. Now, that's probably poor on my part, because as I did open houses and I built my sphere of influence, I probably would be smart to then start shifting how I did things in sphere of influence. But if you don't know where your business came from last year, it's going to be hard for you to predict what to do next year. And then we'll go through the rest of this chart come Tuesday. If you want to look ahead, help yourself. Please do. But this is a very good building block for you to say, I now know what I need to keep my business afloat. I now know what I have to do to earn new business so that I can keep my business afloat. And we can start concentrating on when to keep it afloat at, because you don't want to lose money here. Okay? Any questions on all that? Any comments before I stop the recording? Okay, then.